Vince has been becoming a pro. He's been here a bunch, and like I said, Selena's also available to assist if you guys need anything in the back there. Feel free to ask any one of us. Okay, so I make up all of the sequences and the names and the poses, and they're supposed to be silly and fun and playful. So if you have any suggestions, feel free to chime in and add to that. So the first thing we're going to do is just get comfortable with the swing and test it out and make sure it's at a good height for us. So we put it underneath our arms, underneath the armpits, and then sit straight down. So we want to look up and make sure we're right underneath the daisy chains, right underneath the plumb line. Right? We engage our arms. You guys look good. Just pull down with the shoulders, so we're pulling against the swing. That looks great. And then we walk our feet forward so they're in a little bit of a sumo squat. So the knees are at a right angle with our ankles, so you can bring your feet forward even more. Just walk your feet to the front edge of the mat. Great. Awesome. I'm going to be recording this, and it's basically just torso, so no one's identifiable, just me. And I'm going to do more of a therapeutic version for an introduction today. So if anybody has any injuries, any parts of the body they want me to focus on, feel free to share that, and then we all kind of learn how we can use the swing to help heal the body. It's a really awesome way to use it. It can also be really fun and playful. I call it aerial yoga play because I want us to really experience the body in a new way, feel supported in doing yoga poses. So we're just holding on with our arms, letting our lower body relax. And we want to get into a supported back bend now. So we're going to leave our feet where we are. We're just going to press straight back. Okay, now you'll notice you can take pressure off your underarms when you're like, okay, how do I make that stop? Right? And so instead of kind of wiggling around, why don't we just open up our arms and lean back, and then you can feel the swing is going to slide down and get right underneath the back of the heart. You guys feel that? Take a nice big breath in, and then exhale, clasp your hands behind your head. Let your elbows stay out wide, and just notice that you can look up towards the sky, head is relaxed, and then we're just going to gently sway from side to side. Just bend at the waist, bringing your elbow towards your hip. You're not going to go too far. We're going to stay on the diagonal and just open up the heart really slow. Just let that feel good. And we're going to inhale, open up our arms again, and then exhale, bend the knees and come back to sit. So anytime if you feel like it's uncomfortable for your upper body, that's how you can take a break and move the swing back down, right? Because a lot of times we'll just kind of go like this, which is totally okay, but I call it like wrestling. Like when we wrestle, like in our lives sometimes too, when we could just do this and be like, oh, there we go, and then come back in. Okay, so we're also gonna use a forearm press. So when we come back up, we're gonna push our forearms into the swing strongly, which lifts our heart, and our hips are dropped, so deepening your hip creases. Okay, drop all the way, you can see, just drop your weight. One way you can tell is pick your feet up. Now, if you're not cheating, your hips will drop, and then you can gently lower the feet down. Nice. And of course, that's a little bit more intense, a little bit more engaged, right? So, yeah, sure.
So when I'm like that, like right now, it looks like your hips are at a right angle for the height of yours to where your knee is, and I'm resting with my weight into it. I'm going below my knees with my hips.
It's good to be at a right angle, but the thing is, it's because your shoulders are like this. See how my hips just dropped and they look a little bit more like how yours is? So what you want to do is when you're here, when you press in, then your hips rise. You see what I mean? Yeah.
Did it rise up?
So let's do it together one more time because it's a great question. So lean back, get the swing right underneath like the bra line. So lean back a little bit more. There you go. Open up, take a nice big inhale. Now exhale, come back to the forearm press. Right? Now keep the chest lifted and then lower. You kind of like lock in. There you go. Walk your feet forward a little bit more. And then it's at a right angle. So drop your hips a lot. Just drop. Yeah. See how it's a little bit higher now? If it feels good, you're in the right place. We can always bring it higher or lower. There's like, I make the daisy chains and there's like a 4-inch discrepancy between each notch. Call it a notch, whatever, you know, each level. So you can bring it up a little higher or a little lower, but I think that's pretty good for you. So what's going to happen is we're going to shift into some other poses, and when we do, if the swing's too high, it will be more challenging, that's all. So that's pretty good for kind of like a beginner thing. But we can always bring it up too. Everybody else feel okay? Yeah. All right, good questions. Let's test out our leg loops. So we're going to keep our arms wrapped around the swing all the time. If we ever go like this, reach through the center, we're gonna slide out. So what I call is like hugging the swing. So hug the swing, and then reach around for a leg with both hands. Now they're stretchy, right? So we're gonna pull down, engage, use our core, get it right behind the knee. Nice. And now we're hanging out. So we stay seated the whole time. We don't wanna like stand up and jump around, although it's fun. It's a little bit more safe to engage through the core. Yep, you got it, just got it. And then put it behind the knee. Now again, the same question, the leg lifts can go up and down a notch or two, depending on how it feels. So if the knees are kind of level with the chest, you're pretty much in the right place. They can be lower, which makes it a little bit easier. If they're higher, it makes it a little bit harder. So you can decide whether you want them higher or lower. So everybody looks pretty good. I'm gonna change yours up a little bit. And we're just gonna try it and see how it feels. So if you want to take one out, and you can actually do a few different adjustments. We're gonna hang it here. See how that feels. Everybody else can just sway from side to side. That looks great. See, that's the idea, is we just play. We get in and then we experiment with how it feels to add a little swagger. Swing. Get your swagger on. Good, yeah. And just explore. As long as we keep our arms hooked around the swing, we're pretty much safe to do whatever we like. We just want to make sure we keep our hook. We always have, that's a little bit better, right? Does that feel good? So that's right at chest level. We could bring them lower, but we wouldn't want to bring them higher than that. It just makes it more of a stretch. It's no big deal. Obviously you can feel how it's deepening in the hip creases. And I'm starting out really slow, just so we can really, it's like a new relationship. We're gonna build some trust, get to know each other, not just with me, but with the swing. And then after we get comfortable, then we can fly and play and do all the good stuff. Okay, so our hips are heavy. Okay, so as much as possible, I'm gonna say, like we're gonna move to my left, your right, that kind of thing. I get a little dyslexic, so we'll just play and work with it. But we're gonna synchronize swim as much as possible, which means we're gonna do the same side as one another. So we're gonna mirror one another. And then every once in a while, we might have a little bumper cars. We have plenty of room, but just in case, just let me give you a little heads up. We apologize in advance for any touching, but we love each other, so we're just gonna play nicely in the space, okay? So this is called chilaxin. And the full chilaxin pose looks like this, with our hands clasped again behind our head. Hips stay heavy, so see if you can actually relax and drop your hips down towards the ground. There you go. Yeah, so that stays heavy. And then the arch comes from the upper thoracic. So it's our heart that blossoms open. Hips stay heavy, really good. And then when we clasp our hands behind our head, we lean back, and then we can sway from side to side. So here's where we can get into a little bumper car action, and it's no big deal, but just since we do have plenty of space, we can add a little bit more play, a little bit more swagger. We'll get into our syncing up in just a few breaths. But just let yourself explore what it feels like to open the heart. And I call it we add a little swing, right? From side to side. And it should feel really good. This is one of the most therapeutic things that you can do for your lower back. So simple, right? But this swaying motion is going to stretch out all of the connective tissue that builds up around the iliac crest, the SI joint, you know, this like little love handle muffin top thing. So this alone will start to stretch all that connective tissue and fascia and open that up. And it feels good, and it's fun, right? Like, we could do this all day. So this is some of the stuff that like I have focused on. How can we use this swing therapeutically to help us recover from some injuries? And we can start to slow it down now, okay? You guys are all very playful spirits, I like it. And then we're going to come to center. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit of the chill flow. Really simple, it's just going to be a half flow. Anytime you need a break, if you're getting a little air sick, a little seasick, a little woozy, come on down. I did go over and get a ginger brew, and you guys are welcome to have a little sip. I put some in the cup there. So if you get a little nauseous, it's normal to get used to the swaying motion, but it's also your body detoxing, since we're putting pressure on these different points that are activating the lymphatic system, so you get a real big rush of detoxification in the body, which is really great. It just doesn't feel awesome when you're like, oh, I feel woozy. So always take a break. Come down and reground if you need. it's hitting these points like on the back of the knees and stuff, you can actually spread out, just try this so you can see, make sure it's not twisted. You can actually spread out the leg loops, which is a much more beginner version. It's like, you know, little stirrups or something. But this is a nice way to take pressure off the knees if they tend to bother you. Okay, lots of different variations, so ask me if you're like, again, if you need a break from the arms, yeah, I can see you. Just lean back with your upper body, yeah. And then clasp your hands here, and then you'll realize there's no pressure on the underarms. So what we're doing, even though it's, you know, fun and playful, we're realigning the posture. So if there's a tendency to slouch, or if there's a tendency to be some weakness in the shoulders, that's usually how it shows up in the swing. You kind of tend to sink here. So I work with a lot of, and come on down, just sitting straight up and down for a minute so I can show you guys. I work with a lot of older people, like in their 80s, and get them to really build strength in a really safe way. So we're gonna let our shoulders sink up to our ears, okay? And then we're gonna pull down, engage. Pull down, engage. And then sink. And then we're gonna pull down, engage strongly. Those are your lats. That part of the body hardly ever gets engaged, right? And so that controls the rotation of the shoulder girdle. So it's so simple, but just sitting in the swing and engaging the back body, pulling down, is going to really strengthen your shoulders. And it's going to be intense at first, right? And you can actually wear a long sleeve to help with that skin pulling, so that in time it won't be so uncomfortable. But until then, just lean back whenever you need a break. Does that make sense? Great. So yeah, usually when people practice with me a lot, they know to wear long sleeves and to like have, you know, tight fitted clothing. There's like a whole clothing line for the aerial yoga play practice, really. And we're getting there. I make clothes, so I've been designing things. But yeah, but that's a really good question. I usually bring in my little bubbies. I call them bubbies that you put on like a shrug, so it can help with that intensity. Okay. So the full chillaxing pose, if you ever do want to take a break, looks like this, right? Hips heavy, swaying from side to side, supporting the head. So let's get into a little freeze frame, and then we'll go back to our chillaxing flow. So we're all going to bring our elbows to the right, legs to the left, and hold it. See if you can open up the side body here. Yeah, good. And then come back through neutral. Take a nice deep breath, inhale. And then exhale, press elbows to the left, legs to the right, beautiful. And it can be any way that you want, but just see if you can find that sweet spot. Where can you get, you know, the kind of massage